This document, Dignitas Personae, was written to address certain bioethical questions that have been addressed before, but as we all know, bioethics and research into embryonic stem cells and stem cell therapies and all that sort of thing has been going on at a great pace over the last few years, and it was felt that something new needed to be written. And what it does, it makes three main points. The first point is the respect that's due to human life at every stage from the moment of conception. The next one is really that the procreation is a sharing in God's creation. The proper context for that is the committed love of a couple in marriage. And the third point it makes is about the research that's happening, about what ethical norms should guide it, but also about the fact that ethical research should be encouraged and that it should be widely shared, not just for rich countries and so on. So they would be the main points, I think, in the document. Well, stem cell research, when you read stories in the papers, and you've read so many stories in the papers in the last couple of years about treatments and great breakthroughs and so on, I think what people should be aware of is that in every single one of those cases, without exception, the therapies have been done on the basis of adult stem cells. And as far as adult stem cells are concerned, the Church welcomes that, sees a great breakthrough. Obviously, the ordinary rules of medical ethics have to apply, but this is a great breakthrough and there is wonderful promise in it. The Church's questions arise when embryos, young human beings, are destroyed. And that's what the Church is not happy about. And I think it's very important to see that in all those stories that you read, you often would read them without recognizing that this has nothing to do with embryonic stem cells, nothing. And people are saying, well, you know, why is the Church opposing this kind of progress? The progress that's actually happening, the Church is in favour of. With embryonic stem cells, however, you're destroying a human life that has begun. And I think it's very important to recognise that human life, at every moment, has to be treated with respect. People often say that that's, this is people of religious views. You don't have to be religious to ask yourself how the early stages of human life should be thought of and how they should be treated. I think one of the things that worries me enormously is that in the European Union, in the actions of our government, in the actions of institutions in Ireland, the driving motive appears to be economics, profit, not ethical considerations about what kind of world we are creating and what kind of respect we are showing to other members of our race when we use them in order to produce treatments which have not yet appeared and which may not appear, because adult stem cells are at least as promising an area of research as embryonic stem cells, and they don't raise the huge problem that we are treating human beings with contempt. The attitude of the Church to gene therapy begins by recognizing that there are two different questions here. One is the question of addressing a faulty gene in an individual and inserting a healthy gene in the hope that that will replace eventually the diseased gene. And therefore it's a kind of therapy. There's no great problem in principle about it. However, there's also what's called germline therapy, which means that the genes are changed in such a way that the change will be transmitted. And one of the problems there is that there's a potentially infinite result from that the change really is transmitted from generation to generation, expanding all the time, and that in fact it might be a long time before we even realize that there was a problem. And at that stage it may be impossible to stop. So that the results of it are almost infinite. And that's why I think in the present state of knowledge, the Church would say, and I think a lot of sensible people say, a lot of scientists would say that this is not right, and in fact it's not permitted in a lot of places for that reason. The document addresses human cloning and says, first of all, that the proper context for procreation, for participation in God's creation, is the context of a married partner's married love, and that human beings are not products to be made in a laboratory. That's the first and most basic reason. There are also all sorts of other questions that arise about cloning. There's a question about the safety of it. There's the question about whether cloning is actually, strictly speaking, as we know, is it possible at all? Because what you do is you mix the nucleus of one cell with the mitochondria of another. And especially when that's the mitochondria of an animal cell, you create all sorts of difficulties. But even when it's not, you would create huge difficulties. So the question of human cloning, basically, the document is negative about it. And I think an awful lot of people would agree with that, and that's the position of a lot of countries also, that they wouldn't allow that. People often approach the question of morality thinking that it's all about thou shalt not. I think the important thing to recognize is thou shalt not is always a conclusion from another much more basic commandment. Thou shalt love the Lord with all your heart and soul, and your neighbor as yourself. And really, any kind of rules that we make are about that. I suppose it's always easier to make negative rules, because the negative rules are the kind of framework within which we live. Once you've crossed a certain line, you've done something which is basically not human or not humane. And it's easy enough to draw those lines. A lot of our decisions aren't of that kind at all. A lot of our decisions are decisions about how best I can do something good. What career do I choose? What partner in marriage do I choose? Where do I decide to give my alms or my donations? Many of the answers to those questions, there are a whole lot of different answers, all of which might be right. But they're nevertheless answers that we have to do, and that's also about thou shalt love, and about how you do it. But it's not as easy to make the positive guidance as precise as the negative guidance. That's one of the reasons. But I think the important thing is the negative thing is a kind of a framework. It says, look, if you do this, you've gone beyond the scope of what human relationships and relationships with creation and relationships with God should be. I think this document is obviously a very full document. It's actually divided up quite clearly, so people can consult it bit by bit and on various issues. They can consult it on this website. They can download it if they want on the website. There will also be a number of URLs of website addresses made available to people, and maybe a couple of references that people might approach and use to inform themselves more about it. And I would encourage people to do that, because I think it is a very important issue, issues really that are being raised in this document.